Ted was tying his shoelaces in the sitting room when Pearl hurried out of the bedroom dressed for work. Her bag was full, bulging with files, makeup items, and the usual things she carried. "Love, I'm late," she called, picking up her bag. As she slung it over her shoulder, the bag slipped and fell. Items rolled across the floor. Lip balm, her ID card, her hand cream. Pearl quickly scooped up what she noticed and rushed out. But a small silver pack rolled under the center table. Ted bent and picked it up. A condom. His heart dropped into his stomach. He turned the pack over in his hand, staring at it, imagining every possible scenario his mind could invent. Before he knew it, he had slipped the pack into his drawer quietly, and from that moment, nothing remained the same. The following days were filled with tension, thick, heavy, and almost visible in the air between them. Pearl noticed the shift instantly. This wasn't the man who usually joked while brushing his teeth or hummed under his breath while scrolling on his phone. This Ted felt different, wrong, off. She tried to engage him, hoping it was just stress. "Ted, is everything okay?" she asked softly one evening. "I'm fine," he replied, too quickly, too stiffly. The tone wasn't harsh, but it carried a wall she wasn't allowed to cross. She made his favorite meals, peppered chicken the way he liked it, warm jollof rice with just enough spice, even the ginger drink she usually saved for special days. He barely touched them. Sometimes he only poked at the food, staring at it like his mind was elsewhere entirely. Pearl tried to hug him, hoping touch would soften him, but he stepped back, not roughly, not angrily, just coldly. A gentle rejection that hurt more than a shove would have. Every small action Pearl did now irritated him. If she took a phone call in another room, Ted stared at her like she was hiding classified information. If she laughed at a message, he clenched his jaw so hard she could see the muscles twitch. She caught him watching her sometimes, not lovingly, not curiously, but suspiciously, like he was studying her for clues to a crime she didn't know she was being accused of. Pearl didn't understand any of it. She felt like she was living with a stranger who wore her husband's face. And Ted was drowning in his imagination. When he tried to sleep, his brain replayed scenes he invented: Pearl smiling at someone else, Pearl whispering into a phone, Pearl choosing another man over him. None of it was real, but in his mind, it played like a movie with perfect clarity. He couldn't shut it off. The condom had become a silent monster whispering lies into his ears. What if she's cheating? What if you're a fool? What if you've already lost her? And every day, the monster grew louder. By the fourth day, Pearl couldn't take it anymore. She found Ted pacing in the bedroom, his hands on his waist, his breathing heavy. She approached him carefully. "Ted, please, tell me what's wrong. You're scaring me." Ted stopped pacing and turned sharply to face her. His eyes were hard. "What's wrong?" he repeated. "You really want to know?" Pearl's heart raced. Yes. Ted walked to his drawer, opened it, and threw the silver pack onto the bed. "Explain this." Pearl blinked at it in confusion, genuine shock washing over her face. I don't understand. What's that doing here?" "Don't lie to me," Ted snapped. "Who are you seeing? Who are you cheating on me with?" Pearl staggered backward as if she'd been slapped. "What? Ted, I swear I know nothing about that." Ted's anger exploded. "Do you think I'm stupid? A condom fell from your bag right in front of me." Pearl shook her head rapidly, tears forming. "I don't know how it got there. I swear to you, I don't believe you." "Ted, please." "I said I don't believe you," he repeated, pointing at her with trembling hands. Pearl broke down crying, but Ted's anger and hurt had reached a boiling point. The next morning, the house felt heavier than usual, as if the air itself had thickened overnight. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across the floor. But it did nothing to warm the cold that had settled in the room. Ted sat on the couch, his back straight, hands resting on his knees. His face was calm to calm, the kind of calm that carried the weight of a storm beneath it. Pearl watched him, her heart pounding, a premonition twisting in her chest. "I'm done," he said softly. Pearl froze mid-step, the cup of tea trembling in her hands. Done with what? Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried all the fear and disbelief she could muster. "Done with this marriage," he repeated, his tone steady, precise, almost cold. The words slammed into her chest like a hammer. Her knees went weak, and she had to sit down on the edge of the sofa to steady herself. Her mind raced. Done. But why? What did I do? Before she could say another word, Ted picked up his phone and dialed a number. His movements were deliberate, unhesitant. "Barrister Dan Loddy, good morning. I need you to prepare divorce papers immediately," he said, his voice formal, detached, like he was speaking about a business transaction, not the woman sitting in the same room, sobbing silently. Pearl felt the floor tilt beneath her. She grabbed the edge of the couch to steady herself, her heart thudding painfully in her chest. Ted, please don't do this. Don't destroy us over something I know nothing about," she begged, her voice breaking. He didn't respond to her, not a word. His eyes were fixed somewhere far away, cold and unwavering. "Yes," Ted continued into the phone, his tone sharper now, carrying authority, finality. "I want the papers ready before the weekend. No delays." Pearl's tears fell freely now. She grabbed his arm, her fingers trembling as she held onto him for dear life. "Ted, stop, please. You're making a terrible mistake. Don't do this. We can." Pearl's sobs had barely subsided when a soft, deliberate knock echoed through the apartment. The sound cut through the heavy silence like a sudden gust of wind, startling both her and Ted. Pearl wiped her streaming tears quickly with the hem of her blouse, taking a shaky breath as if trying to gather courage for whatever awaited outside. Her legs trembled, but she forced herself to her feet. She walked to the door, each step weighted with dread, and slowly turned the knob. Standing there, smiling brightly, and completely oblivious to the storm inside the room, was her colleague, Mrs. Boma. Her warm, cheerful presence seemed almost out of place in the tense, tear-streaked atmosphere. "Ah, Pearl, good afternoon," Boma said, her voice carrying casual friendliness. "I was in the area and remembered that small pack I put in your bag last week. Did you ever find it?" Pearl's mouth dropped open, her eyes widening in confusion and exhaustion. What pack?" she asked, her voice cracking. Boma's tone remained light, unaware of the emotional minefield in front of her. "The sample pack of condoms now," she said cheerfully. "I slipped it into your bag that day at the office because I didn't want to misplace it before my child spacing seminar. I completely forgot to collect it back." Pearl, still trembling and wiping the last traces of tears from her cheeks, turned slowly to face him. Her voice was soft, wounded, and quivering with disbelief. "Ted, is this what you wanted to divorce me over?" Ted's vision blurred. Shame and realization washed over him in waves. He felt smaller than he had in years, exposed and raw. He had built days of anger, accusations, and plans for divorce on nothing but an innocent misunderstanding. Boma, still unaware of the storm she had triggered, waved her hand gently as if brushing off a minor inconvenience. After Mrs. Boma left, silence settled over the apartment like a heavy curtain. The tension that had been building for days seemed to press down on them, yet now it carried a different weight, one of clarity and raw emotion. "Ted," she whispered softly, her voice trembling but steady. Do you understand what you almost did? Do you realize how close you came to destroying us over something? Over nothing? Ted lifted his head slowly, his eyes meeting hers for the first time in days. His voice, barely audible, carried the weight of his remorse. I know. I've been a fool. I let fear and doubt control me instead of trusting you. Pearl held up a hand, stopping him. Don't say it yet. You need to feel it first. Feel the damage your silence caused, the hurt your assumptions caused. He nodded, swallowing hard. I feel it, every second of it. Pearl, I am so sorry. I let my imagination destroy my love for you before I even asked the truth. Pearl's eyes softened, but her tears returned. I can forgive, Ted, but forgiveness doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't erase the fear I felt these past days, thinking I had lost the man I trusted most. Ted reached toward her, hesitant, as if afraid she might push him away. She didn't. Instead, she allowed him to take her hand, slowly bridging the space between them, brick by brick, tear by tear. I promise, he said, his voice raw with emotion. I will never let suspicion and silence control us again. I will always come to you first. I will never assume, never again. Pearl nodded slowly, pressing his hand to her cheek. And I promise, Ted, to be honest always, but also to communicate clearly if something like this ever happens again. Marriage is built on trust and words, not assumptions. They stood there, holding hands, silence finally bringing comfort instead of fear. The apartment, once heavy with anger and accusation, now felt lighter. The storm had passed, leaving only the possibility of healing. A week later, the divorce papers Ted had requested remained untouched, gathering dust in the drawer like a reminder of how close they came to losing everything. Instead of bitterness, the house was now filled with quiet conversations, shared laughter, and a renewed tenderness. Ted and Pearl sat together on their small balcony that evening, watching the soft orange glow of sunset settle over the neighborhood. For the first time in days, they felt like themselves again, to people choosing each other, choosing honesty, choosing healing. Ted reached over and took Pearl's hand gently. What almost destroyed us, he said softly, wasn't the condom. It was my silence, my assumptions, my fear of asking the woman I love a simple question. Pearl smiled, leaning her head lightly on his shoulder. And what saved us, she added, was the truth. The truth we could have found days earlier if we had just talked. They both nodded, allowing the peaceful moment to settle. The storm was behind them, but the lesson was one they knew they would carry forever. Pearl looked at Ted and whispered, maybe our story can help someone out there. Maybe someone else will think twice before assuming the worst. Ted chuckled softly, then let them hear it. Let them learn from us. He looked directly into the imaginary audience, the future viewers who would watch and listen, and said in a warm, thoughtful tone, if you followed our story this far, don't leave without reflecting. Have you ever judged someone you love without hearing their side? What do you think Ted should have done differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. Pearl smiled and added softly, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African stories like ours. Stories that teach, stories that heal, stories that remind us that communication is everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, their hands intertwined, the air around them calm and hopeful. They had survived the storm and now they were ready to help others weather theirs.